Is Boohoo going bust is something I'm hearing a lot in my channel and other spaces. There is a lot of fear, uncertainty and doubt at the moment, and I'm going to absolutely argue against these points because a lot of them are unfounded and a load of fucking bullshit. In this video, I'm going to be disputing these comments. I'm going to show you them. Although some of them are trolls on purpose to try and elicit a reaction, most of them do not have any evidence behind them, and pretty much they're just spitting out ideas. These ideas can create more fear, uncertainty and doubt, so I'm going to therefore argue against them, show you exactly why, and also provide the cold, hard facts that are available on the balance sheet of the company so that you can also do your own research. The first thing I'd like to point out here is that these people that do comment online in these chat rooms, God forbid, if you hang out in these chat rooms, honestly, get out of them. You are a loser. If you're sat in the stock chat rooms typing away, get away from it. You're a loser if you've got to sit there talking to other people about a certain stock. Just forget about it. Regardless, these people have zero accountability. You don't know who they are. They could be a neckbeard with a fedora. They could be someone that you do not want to be in the worst shape of their life, bad mental health. Why would you listen to the advice of others online? And you might go, okay, well, that's a bit hypocritical, isn't it? You're sat online behind a camera on the computer. Well, there's a few things behind this. One, you can see my face. Two, I provide everything in the most transparent way possible. If I don't do that, then my brand reputation gets ruined, and therefore I lose any remaining respect I have on YouTube as a person, or any, let's say, authority, not authority, but you get the idea. I lose that reputation I have, therefore I have more skin in the game. I show you all of my investments. I suppose you could say, well, you could be hiding some investments, but I know that, and I suppose I'm the only one that will truly know that I'm not hiding any investments from you. So at least I can have some accountability, some skin in the game, and something to hear. But that being said, you don't have to listen to me either. I think being presented with the different facts, and you can make the decision up yourself, doing your own due diligence. So when we actually dive into it, there is a fuck ton of fear in the markets at the moment, and to be honest, I think it's a load of rubbish. Now, if we just jump into this very quickly, let's open up Chrome here. And let's start here. So on Twitter, for instance, as you can see here, and now this person, I'm not calling them out in particular, but they've said how many punters have chased Boohoo down from 370 pence down to 57 pence per share. All that sizzle, and I completely agree. A lot of people would fall in the fallen knife, myself included. And yes, it did have a very large PE at the start. That's my own mistake in that large valuation. Now, they go on to say that if you want to make money, look for the companies being ignored and bombed out where things are changing. Now, I don't know if this is ironic on purpose, but right now I would say Boohoo is exactly in that position. But at least if you go through the comments of this, the sentiment is quite low. It's bad for the environment, businesses. Kids aren't interested in cheap plastic rubbish anymore. Well, that's the thing. They can be interested in it or not. Do they have the cash flow? Do they have the funds available to buy all of these ethically sourced, sustainable clothing? Probably not. So again, you could say they're interested or not. They're after the fashion less than the environment, at least in my opinion. But obviously, I'm going to trust Shwebs69 online. Regardless, we've got the comments here. So 669 million market capitalization, which has changed since this comment. This is over a week ago now. Where next for Boohoo? 500 million market cap? Now, David himself, there's nothing wrong here. He's obviously just poisoning the idea, trying to elicit a conversation. Yeah, fair enough. The comment response is just 0. Obviously, this is a troll response designed to trigger you. But it's also ridiculous. There's no way it would drop to 0 when you've got a company here that is making money, albeit they're not profitable. They are generating revenue. This revenue is roughly, at least after the most recent results, they made in the first quarter £446 million. Now you might say, well, if a business isn't growing, it's not good at all. But I think it's impressive enough to continue a business. If you're able to maintain a business at a current level, which I've learned from my own YouTube channel where it hasn't been growing anymore, even though I haven't been growing, I've been able to maintain that consistent level of profit, at least, or sales, and therefore I'm maintaining that. And that's a good thing. The business is able to continue surviving. So to say it's going to go to 0, even though they are making, well, if you times this by 4, even though we're not accounting for seasonal variation, you've got about £1.9 billion in yearly sales. That seems a bit dramatic. Furthermore, Boohoo is following Matalan. Creditors will refuse to give it credit and it will go bust. So you might get 10 pence on the pound tops. Well, that's changed earlier from his comment of 0 market capitalization. It's now got an intrinsic value of 10 pence per share. But you can see here that there is absolutely no research on this. This is just a random share price chucked into it to incite fear, and it's typically just a troll comment from Heisenberg himself. Now, actually, when you look at this, and he says here, right, creditors will refuse to give it credit. Well, actually, in their financial highlights here, they had a net cash position of £1.3 million. They now have a new £325 million revolving credit facility, which was agreed in March 2022. Now, it doesn't specify the interest rate of this, but that is £325 million in capital that they have available. Are they really going to go bust without using this credit facility? I'm sure the terms of this can change. They may go, actually, we're going to increase the interest rate to reflect the risk. Or they're going to go, okay, look, you've borrowed 150 million. We've now changed this. Again, you would really have to look at the paperwork and the agreements here, but that is capital that they have accessible. And 325 million, that's quite a lot for a company that is only valued at 600 million as per that comment, probably close to 800 million now. So if a company was worth zero, right, they would not get given a 325 million revolving credit facility, would they? It's not going to go away that soon. Boohoo won't go back up anymore, so you can stop looking at it and prepare to lose all your money in Boohoo shares. Well, okay, you know what? Look, this is fair. In the last year and a half, Boohoo has dropped considerably. Last year alone, I think it's down about 80%. Let's actually have a look here. In the last year alone, it's down 80.57%, and I've been invested for over a year, although I'm not down by that amount. When we actually look at the comment itself, this was 9 days ago. Now, 9 days ago, right? Let's have a look on here. Let's go back to, let's say, the 30th of July, because this is the 8th as of recording. The share price is up 8.55%. Now, that is the average annual return of the S&P 500 each year, albeit there's variation to that. Obviously, some years it could be up 30, some years it could be down 30. That is a good return in the space of 9 days. Now, that's not to say it's a bear trap, because quite frankly, it's happened a lot of Boohoo. Shares have rallied up and then proceeded to drop down to even lower lows ever since that. But that is a good return there, and saying just not to buy and it will never go back up again is unrealistic. That's like saying this share can't possibly go any lower when Boohoo has done that consistently for the last year. There's no certainty in the markets, especially in the short term. We don't know if it's going to go up or down tomorrow, or at least on Monday. And we just don't know that. Over the long term, we can estimate that if the share price follows closely to that of the underlying fundamental value based on the assets on the book, such as their machinery, their equipment, their cash, their offices, their inventory. And we can also say based on their cash flow, how much profit are they making? Well, at the moment, they're not making profit. But the idea is there. We can value on that, and over time, as that profit increases, as the overall assets increase, we do expect the overall value of the business to also increase, which is why I would expect as a long-term investor for the shares to eventually go up over time. But to say with absolute certainty that it won't go back up anymore is absolute rubbish. Don't listen to that. Now, next comment, Boohoo is the next nasty girl going bust in the next year. Now, Boohoo's business model has been acquiring failed brands. This is important to remember here because that's what they do. They buy brands out of administration, or ones that are certainly struggling, and turn them around. Now, Nick here is a bit of a troll, and I appreciate that because sometimes they are very amusing, like this comment itself. Now, here he's trying to elicit a reaction. There is no really founded research behind this. There's no sources, there's no evidence, there's no numbers. It's just an opinion, it's not fact. So keep that in mind. But when we actually look at the results, when we're saying Boohoo's going to go bust, right, they're really, really in trouble. Well, the cash and cash equivalents at the end of the year for the financial results ending February was £101.3 million. They, yes, had only £1.3 million in net cash, plus that revolving credit facility of £325 million, giving them access to an overall capital amount of about £426 million and 300,000. That's how much access they had. Now, obviously, that's going to change, obviously. But that's how much capital they had available and accessibility to. That's not including their £100 million they've taken in an overdraft facility, which is obviously debt, and they will have to pay this down at some point. But they're not going to go bust with that much access to liabilities. But even without liabilities, when we look at the total loss that Boohoo made in the last year, they lost £4 million. That's it. So is a company really going to go bust because they lost £4 million when they're valued at well above that? No, that's ridiculous. If the company was losing more than their revenue, like some of these AIM speculative stocks you see, like those exploring companies that are, oh, we're exploring for gold, oh, we're just going to do some drill results, oh, look, this will make money, this is an investment and not a gamble, what a load of rubbish. GGP, I'm talking about you. Greatland Gold, that's not going to make money by guessing. You're gambling. You're going, okay, look, we're going to drill in this part of the land, oh, well, it had this figure, oh, well, there's a little bit of gold here. It doesn't mean it's there for the whole land, does it? There's no investment in that. You're gambling on the results of a drill whilst paying the executives an extremely high amount of money. I digress, but it is a wank investment. I hate it a lot. Anyway, Boohoo, they've only lost £4 million. And when we dive into the actual free cash outflow, a majority of this is actually from capital expenditure and intangible asset purchases. Now, if we look in their most recent trading update, you can see that they're making progress against strategic priorities. They're focusing on sourcing and freight, cost management, and they're also investing in the long term with their facilities. They're building that one in Pennsylvania here for America. So they've got a distribution center. This is a lease, albeit, but they have got automation in Sheffield. So they're investing in the long term. They've invested in capacity so they have a greater amount of storage in their warehouses so they can house, over 4 billion in sales? They're investing in the long term. They're not looking for short-term profits. This is exactly the move I'd want the management to be making. No, they're not going to pay a dividend. I've seen comments about that. Why would they pay a dividend when they can invest that money and generate a better shareholder return back in the business? Just because the share price has fallen, they should not pay you a dividend. Absolutely not. And if you want a dividend, and I understand it would be a nice thing, right? It doesn't help the business in any way. It will just deteriorate the quality of the business even further. Do not even think about it. You need to understand the impact that a dividend has there. The point is, they've spent a lot in capital expenditure. They've bought 4 brands. They've bought a lot of warehousing. They've upgraded. They've invested in the long term. So this is an abnormally high year. When you also look at the expenses that have been arisen due to the supply chain disruption, which is likely to be a medium-term thing, it's unlikely that it's going to last or persist forever, and it's industry-wide. So if Boohoo goes bust, there's going to be a lot of other businesses that are in some deep trouble if that's the case. I mean, ASOS has a worse balance sheet than Boohoo does, and there are other smaller companies that will struggle considerably more with less pricing power than Boohoo has. So again, that is unfounded. Now here it says Rip Boo. And he believes here that basically they will take on more debt. But if we have a recession that spans several years, Boohoo will default on its loans. Well, Boohoo effectively is quite recession-proof, albeit the supply chain disruption is savaging them at the moment. Their low prices make them cost-effective. In a cost-of-living crisis where people have less money, they're still going to need clothing. They're still going to want to go out and dress and impress occasionally. They might go out less, but they still want to have good clothing. So they're going to spend less money, but they're also going to look for the trendier clothing. So Boohoo is naturally a very good spot for that, and I don't think that they're going to default on their loans during a recession. In fact, they quoted it, I believe, on their annual report, or at least their presentation, that their marginal propensity to consume in fashion, and I can't remember the exact figure, was actually quite a strong number, meaning that actually, despite incomes rising or incomes falling, that they actually saw an increase, I believe. Now, I would need to double check that, but I'm sure you can pull this out and comment below and call me out on it. And here we go. What if Boohoo files for bankruptcy? My gut feeling they will run out of working capital. At best, come back to the market with a begging bolt in 12 to 18 months. Now, I'm not ruling out shareholder dilution. I do think this could be possible, and honestly, if Boohoo does this, I would be happy. Let's raise some more shares, give a discount to current shareholders. That would be great. I'd love that. That means they've got a bit more capital to play with, and they're more likely to survive, which already they're in a good position for. But again, you don't know how long this may last, and it's good for them to get that. So I would encourage that. I think that'd be a good move by the management, albeit at a low valuation that they are currently. This isn't a good time for it, and obviously in hindsight, 2 years ago, that would have been a fantastic time for it. Regardless, I've put some cold, hard truth bombs here, and I've said they will not find $100 million. Now, in the comment above, he was on about the lawsuit. What's happened here? I believe they reached a settlement that was less than $20 million, and I've said that it was negotiating a settlement at a fifth of the amount. This has already been provisioned in the balance sheet already. So forget about that. That figure is gone now. Providing it stays in the discussion or the settlement, that's gone. Fine, forget about it. And Boohoo has £101 million in cash, £100 million in debt, and they've got that revolving credit facility of £325 million. They lost £4 million after tax in the most recent full year. Tell me how that leads to bankruptcy or them going bust. Quite simply, the numbers don't add up, and they're not going to. So honestly, a lot of people here really need to reflect on what's going on. And with that in mind, I will be buying more Boohoo. Obviously, I used my cash last week, and in the last, or 2 weeks ago when I got paid, because I get paid monthly, I am immediately investing it. And next month, if the prices stay around like this, because Games Workshop has had a phenomenal recovery in the last 2 weeks, I'll invest it all into Boohoo again. I will obviously invest in what I believe in. The quality of the company is good. The management are making the good long-term decisions. And yes, I'm down 52.29% at the moment. But again, if you're going to hate on me for being down, remember, the only reason you know I'm down is because I've told you. I've given you the fuel for your fire to hate me. So think about that next time you try and troll me, because quite frankly, you're not getting far. For those of you watching, have a fantastic Sunday afternoon.